denies that his justice minister, who has said previously that he is looking to take control of individual provinces and territories' natural resources. So that's David Lametti. And the prime minister essentially, well, you'll hear from him yourself, but he essentially accuses premiers of being non-committed to UNDRIP. That's the United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous People. So we're going to talk about that, but let's show you this clip first.
Hi, I'm Malak from the Free Press. I wanted to ask about the Natural Resources Transfer Act. Is it appropriate, in your opinion, to review the agreements, and how do you address the concerns raised by the Prairie premiers?
Let me be very clear. The Minister of Justice said no such thing. If you actually look at his remarks, it is very clear that we're talking about the importance of the federal government living up to our responsibilities under UNDRIP, something that unfortunately the Prairie premiers have not taken seriously, and they are instead trying to elevate fears that have absolutely no grounding in truth. We know we need to move forward in true reconciliation and partnership with Indigenous peoples, and that's something that we certainly hope we're going to be able to work on with the premiers and with Indigenous peoples to be able to grow the economy and create those great jobs, including in natural resources that are going to be there for decades to come as we move towards a net zero world.
Oh my God, Tamara, the chutzpah, the sheer unmitigated gall. He's all about Indigenous rights. What is it? We have like over 30 reserves where there is a boil advisory for the drinking water. And I remember a protester, I think it was Grassy Narrows, if memory serves well, in the last election campaign, she complained about this and he mocked her. He made a joke about this female native complaining about the fact that their reserve does not have drinking water. And then when it comes to creating good, sustainable jobs, quite the opposite is happening. We know with the number of oil sands projects shut down, and believe me, there are many natives that are employees with these good, high-paying jobs. They're the ones losing out as well as other Canadians. So what is he talking about?
Well, exactly. And what is he talking about when he says that Lametti didn't say those things? I mean, maybe for our viewers at home, we should have perhaps started with this clip, but we have the clip. So let's, listen for yourselves. What do you make of this? You tell us
from
in the comments.
Chief Brian, also from Chief Don Miracle, the point about the Natural Resources Transfer Agreement. Chief Miracle did it indirectly. Chief Brian did it directly. And you're on the record for that. I obviously can't pronounce on that right now, but I do commit to looking at that. It won't be uncontroversial is the only thing I would say with a bit of a smile.
First of all, why would you say...
They know how wrong they are.
Yeah, but why would you say it won't be uncontroversial, as I say, with a bit of a smile? What are you smiling about when you're creating controversy? And I can tell you what the politics are behind this when it comes in and trying to control the resources of the provincial prairie provinces. It's this, Tamara, even if there is outrage in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and so forth, it doesn't matter to the Liberals. They're already vastly unpopular there. Their vote base is Eastern Ontario and Quebec. And so the idea that we're going to do some virtue signaling controversial move, and even if it makes the average Albertan seethe, big deal. We've written off Alberta decades ago, so it's no harm, no foul.
Exactly. Well, and for anyone at home who might not know what exactly we're talking about, I'd like to just pull up Drea Humphrey, our BC reporter's report on the subject back from December of 2022. So a few months ago, she did a really in-depth report here, and I'm not sure if we can pull it up on screen, but I just wanted to read the first few paragraphs. And of course, it's a full video. She does a full-length interview here, but I'll just read from her written copy. It says, have you heard of the UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act? That's UNDRIP before. It's described by the Canadian government as a law to affirm, recognize, and emphasize the respect and recognition of the human rights of Indigenous peoples. And I think there are only a select few countries where this is happening: Canada, United States, I think New Zealand, and Australia. I may be missing one in there. But while it may sound like a positive step toward more truth and reconciliation, in this report, you'll learn that Canada's adoption of UNDRIP could lead to a two-tiered system where those who don't fall into the UN's policies ambiguous definition of Indigenous peoples wind up as the have-nots in society. And in this report, she interviews Ron Valent, who is a concerned Albertan and has been sounding the alarm about UNDRIP for years. And I guess he also ran in the federal election as a People's Party of Canada candidate. But there are specific concerns here with UNDRIP Articles 5, 26, 28, 30, and 36. And I know we had a couple tweets also from Dave Shrigley where we can just show you what some of those articles allege. Let me just pull them up, and maybe we can also pull them up on screen at the same time. So Article 26, this is from the UNDRIP document itself. Indigenous peoples have the right to the lands, territories, and resources which they have traditionally owned, occupied, or otherwise used or acquire. Talk about ambiguously worded. And then there's another one here, Article 38. Oh, I'm having a bit of an issue. Article 38 states in consultation and cooperation. Sorry, it's not loading there. Indigenous peoples shall take the appropriate measures, including legislative measures, to achieve the ends of this declaration. So this really, again, similar to all these globalist power grabs, the WHO, the UN, the World Economic Forum, this threatens the sovereignty of our nation and really threatens private land ownership, as detailed in this interview that Drea does with Ron. So for anyone who isn't sure about what UNDRIP is, I would highly suggest that you go and check that out. And you can even pull up the declaration yourself to have a read through it, because it's obviously ambiguously worded, but the interpretation of it can be very concerning.
You know, that's just amazing, Tamara. I mean, talk about a Trojan horse. You've got something about the rights of Indigenous peoples. Who would be against that? But like you just did, you went into the nitty gritty, and it's all about a pro-globalist agenda.
Yeah, and dissolving private land ownership rights. And I mean, there's so many countries all across the world where, who were the first people of the land, and will they be coming to claim their property rights in another 5, 10, 15 years? I mean, it's a rabbit hole to go down and to start to try to give land back or acknowledge the rights of the first peoples of the land. I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't any atrocities that happened here to the First Nations and the Indigenous people, but this piece of legislation doesn't come from the Canadian government. It doesn't come from an independent country's government. It comes down from the United Nations. So that in and of itself is very concerning, and again, threatens the sovereignty of our nation and of the individuals. And where does it stop too, right? Like, that's a very slippery slope to try to implement these extremely ambiguously worded articles with no clear definition, as Drea says in this report, of what an Indigenous person is.
And you know what, Tamara, for what it's worth, I just can't get past that acronym, UNDRIP. It's like you go to a plumber and say, I've got a dripping faucet. Can you make it undrip? Anyway.
That's a clip from something we call Rebel News Daily. It's our daily live stream hosted by my friend David Menzies, but the show also includes a rotating cast of hosts and special guests, including me. It's a great way for us to talk about the news of the day as the news is happening in an unscripted fashion, and it's an awesome way for you to interact with us as well. We stream every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Mountain, wherever you find Rebel News. See you there.